I'm Michael Knorr. Frank Lloyd Wright made his mark with many significant works of architecture, but I think his most influential project is the Robie House from 1909 in Chicago. Let's take an architecture minute to look at the Robie House. In the early years of the 20th century, Wright, along with other architects, had been developing an approach to architecture known as the Prairie School. With the Robie House, Wright created a work that is not only the apotheosis of Prairie School architecture, but that also contains the seeds of modern architecture yet to come. Let's examine why the Robie House is such a good example of the Prairie School and why it is a precursor to 20th century and 21st century modern architecture. All the hallmarks of the Prairie School can be seen in the Robie House. Primarily, the emphasis on the horizontal, which is the line of the Midwestern prairie where the school originated. But though the style is named for the prairie, the real reason for the horizontal emphasis is because it is the line of repose. Traditional styles were mostly upright, stiff, and formal. The Prairie School introduced a more relaxed and comfortable approach to architecture that relates back to the earth. The Robie House celebrates the horizontal line in every possible way. First, and most obvious, in the overall shape of the house. Next, look at the roof overhang, not the usual stubby eaves typical at the time. Instead, the roof extends the horizontals of the house beyond its walls and into the environment. And notice how the windows are grouped in long horizontal bands, rather than treated like holes punched in a wall, as was customary. Even small details like the brickwork emphasize the horizontal. Instead of standard bricks, Wright chose more elongated Roman bricks. The vertical mortar joints are tinted and flush with the bricks, uniting each course horizontally. The horizontal mortar joints are raked, meaning they are deeply recessed, creating a horizontal shadow at every course. Many other hallmarks of Prairie School architecture can be found throughout the Robie House. In the Robie House, you can also see the seeds of modern architecture, things we now take for granted, but were revolutionary at the time. For example, open planning. The living room is separated from the hall and the dining room only by the mass containing the fireplace and stairs. The rooms flow into each other, without doors and without precise definition. I believe this approach informed Mies van der Rohe's ultra-modern Barcelona pavilion designed 20 years later in 1929. The Robie House employs the very modern idea of extended lines of sight. One space leads to another and then another, drawing you into the plan, inviting exploration with interior vistas, and expanding the interior space. The extensive use of glass brings the outdoors in, again a very modern approach. Before Wright, windows were shrouded in heavy fabric, colors were dark, and rooms were little boxes. And getting back to the horizontal line, this was repeated decades later in mid-century modern architecture. Palm Springs, a hotbed of modern, is a completely horizontal city. And we can see the echoes of the Prairie School and the Robie House in every Midwestern so-called ranch house. The Robie House sits at a pivot point in architectural history. It is an explicit revolt against the Edwardian and Victorian architecture that preceded it, but it also established a modern architectural vocabulary that rippled through the 20th century and on into the 21st. That's why the Robie House is an architectural icon.